Good morning. I'm Madonna from New Leaf Natural Therapies. I've been a naturopath and kinesiologist for nearly 30 years, and I was incredibly lucky when I was a brand spanking new naturopath to meet my good friend Linda Hoggard. We started doing massage week in, week about because we're both massage therapists. She was just starting naturopathy, I just finished. So we both were very aligned with our thinking and how we wanted to be out there in the world serving humanity. A few weeks later, when we were doing the massage, her back felt totally different. And I said to her, "What did you do?" And she said, "I had an hour of kinesiology yesterday." I said, "What's that?" And as they say, the rest is history. We were booked in with a kinesiology course very soon after that, and we started learning. And we worked out very quickly what we wanted to do. Now, one of the things that I'm fully aware of is when you see me on my YouTube channel doing kinesiology, I know how complicated it looks. And it is a bit complicated when you're doing the high level stuff that I'm doing. But I'll just tell you a little story. I was walking to school with my grandson, Teddy. He's 6 years old. There was something in the atmosphere, and he started getting itchy from head to toe, and he was actually crying and screaming. He was in so much pain. So I actually, funnily enough, I used some Renew 28 gel that I had my hubby come and give it to me because Teddy was in such a state. So I used that externally as well as boosting his immune system, which is part of what I'm teaching in my kinesiology for the home. It's a way of accessing some core acupuncture points that you can tap and get the body to start integrating a process for dealing with something in our immune system. In the kinesiology for the home and kinesiology foundations, you learn how to do this, which is really cool. It's a cool tool. One of the big differences between kinesiology for the home and kinesiology foundations is kinesiology for the home is for time poor people. It's done over 8 months. There's one live integration per month, which is an hour, but that doesn't matter. They're all videoed anyway. You're getting coaching with me for the whole 8 months. You're getting a private Facebook group where all of your questions can be put. Each week as well, I'll be sharing information, tips, and little videos that you can go and practice in your own space at your own leisure. So there's a lot that you get for your $600 in kinesiology for the home. Kinesiology Foundations is a bit different. It's more, there's a massive amount of information, and it's for people who really want to be making a difference in people's lives right now. It's for people who've got more time on their hands. So what you get as soon as you pay for the Kinesiology Foundations, and there are some payment plans, what you get is all of the videos for the first and second kinesiology foundations. But each week I will be sending you the specific videos that I need you to watch for that week. And then it's your task to go and practice some of this, or at least integrate it in your mind, depending on how your brain works. If you're a kinesthetic person, you need to go and do it on someone. If you're someone who's more logical, you might want to listen to it a couple of times and really get the concepts down before you actually go and work on someone. But nonetheless, so each week there's handouts and there is live homework to watch, and it's sort of drip fed, and then there's a live integration each week. But by that stage you will have done your homework. If you've had time. If you don't, then then you're jumping in the deep end. But all of the information's there from the previous two kinesiology foundations that I've done. So you're basically getting those previous courses, you're getting all the questions and answers that people had, and you're getting access to the group. So that's sort of the overview of the kinesiology for the home. Hello. I'll just So Kinesiology Foundations is the one that I taught twice last year. And the thing that I really love about it is that when I started learning kinesiology, every time anything didn't work, it was blamed on the person who was doing the kinesiology. We were told that we were switching. We were told that we weren't integrated. We were told that we were muscle testing too hard, too soft, to anything else. So the reason I really love the Kinesiology Foundations is that right from day one, I start talking about hypertonic muscles. Now, this is not talked about in most beginner kinesiology training because it's a little bit complicated and people don't want to go there. And the reason I've put together the course that I've put together is because I know the challenges that people have when they start training, and I wanted to bypass those right from day one. So Kinesiology Foundations is one of my little signature courses. And when is a muscle test accurate? When is it not accurate? That's something that we go over and over again because there's something that I really hate, and it's poor muscle testing. And a lot of people out there teach poor muscle testing, and there's no reason for it. There's a very physiological action that happens with muscle testing. There's no reason to cheat. No reason to cheat. So over the it'll be 7 to 9, 7 to 10 live integrations, depending on how it all rolls, because this will be the first time I've run it like this. So the way that it will be run is that each week I'll send 2 previous videos from the 2 previous courses that are hopefully at the very least one of them, but at the very least watching those and then trying to do those processes at home. And then we do a live integration, which is online. So it's all videoed, so you get to go watch it over and over again. Having spent, well, I don't know, 50 grand on kinesiology training over probably more, but it's one of those, oh, hello, we have voice.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where when you're not getting the video, you go back to your clinic, you go back to your family, and you try to do something and you think, what the heck was it that they said to do? So it's all videoed, which means you can stop and pause and watch and listen and get it and start doing it over and over again. With the live integrations, I'm 100% for questions. I believe in any question. If you're thinking it, someone else is thinking it. So I'm 100% into answering things as they go. Have you done any kinesiology?
NLK.
Right, okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
So with the kinesiology, so you wouldn't want the kinesiology for the home then, you'd be way past that. Yeah. So
Yeah. So,
foundation,
yeah. So also we studied the energy medicine Donna Edens,
beautiful,
yeah, and a bit of tapping and whatnot, but with the
nice.
kinesiology at NLK.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so I had a couple of people in my last foundations who had done Donna Eden's work, and I think I've had one person who's currently doing NLK at the moment. So there's been about, yeah, it's been really cool. So, but one of the things, it depends on the teacher's belief system as to how they teach muscle testing, which is always interesting as well. And I have a vet, like, even with self muscle testing, I'll sort of stop sharing for a second. With self muscle testing, I can't do this one, so lock and unlock. I personally like to use a really strong opponent's pollicis muscle. That's the one that I use, and I use it with all the strength I have to make that happen. I'm not a big fan of this one because I can 100% manipulate that. I'm fully aware I can do it. I would even prefer to use an indicator muscle with that muscle. I would even prefer to use an anterior deltoid for self muscle testing than the ones that I know that I can manipulate, because it's easy to manipulate stuff. Let's face
I
it.
agree.
You
I
know,
agree.
and I really, because my brother's a holistic counselor and holistic tarot card reader, and he's working here with me in the clinic now. And it's funny because he's never had a lot of kinesiology done before, and because he's now my human on the table for things at the moment, he's still really skeptical. It's really interesting that he's still so skeptical when I've been, well, maybe that's just brothers, but for
Yeah.
30 years I've been doing this and he's still skeptical. But his first thing was, when he first started muscle testing, was that he was trying to work out how you could manipulate it. Not because he wants to, but because he wants to make sure that it's not something that's manipulatable. And because my other brother is a GP, right back from day dot when I was learning kinesiology, I was trying to work out how I couldn't manipulate myself. Like right from day dot. So I've never been that kinesiologist who said, I knew that was going to unlock. I've never done that, because as soon as I know I'm doing that, then I know I'm manipulating it, or I have the potential, to manipulate it. And even like with muscle testing, some people are quite intuitive, and I'm not sure whether that makes them a better or a worse muscle tester. I'm not sure, because some people will actually push into the joint and then push down. And I've had that happen to me in sessions with different practitioners. You don't need to do it. It's a fulcrum. You don't need, there's a very specific process that happens with the spindle cells and with the joint. So when we're pushing into the joint, that's never going to unlock. So if they're saying yes, 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 no, that's a manipulation. And I've had that done to me with people in the past who have been very, very intuitive. Now, whether or not their brain intuited that the answer was going to be something that then they subconsciously did that, I don't know. I'm not sure they would have been cheating deliberately, but as a kinesiologist, not muscle testing. That is not muscle testing. That is manipulation. So these are the sort of things that I'm militant about when it comes to muscle testing. So back to our little share screen again. So
I find that interesting. I'd like to learn that. And I am interested in the kinesiology for home as well, because I haven't been practicing my kinesiology.
Okay.
So there's always like the tips.
Beautiful.
To back into it, refreshes. But that I completely resonate with what you're saying about the muscle testing.
Yes.
And quite often wondering if that's my perception of what's going on, rather than, like if when you're in the zone, you're in the zone, with
Yes.
the testing, and then other times there might be self-doubt that comes
Yes.
in with the testing. And I do like the what you do with something a bit stronger.
Yes.
I like that. Yeah.
And I developed that more probably because of my GP brother. And so because he's the reason why I've had any doubt in my kinesiology for 30 years, funnily enough. And the other reason that I've had is people who are very, very strong personalities. When you're at a course and they don't even mean to say it, but they're just tactless as a personality. So they'll say, oh, that's not the way you do that. So for example, there's down in Melbourne, they teach, where are you?
I'm just down the road at Tamborine, Queensland.
Beautiful. Awesome. So there's muscle testing where they use the brachioradialis, and it does a full unlock, and then they link, and it goes to a full lock. I have never been able to make that work. And I sort of said this to someone the other day, that I'm jealous of people who can make that work, because to them, it's obvious for them, it's obvious for the client. Whereas when I learned, I could not make that happen. And I tried for a couple of years. And luckily, I had a tutor or a trainer, Gordon Dixon, and he said, you don't need to do it like that. It can be very subtle. So I'll actually with both of them, but more through kinesiology foundations, I teach a lot of skippy arm, which can be done as a tiny little muscle test or as a full arm muscle test. So, and that way it only needs to move a fraction. But once again, it's getting in the zone and it's feeling that lock over and over and over again. And that's an amazing muscle test for when you've got lots to check. So doing NLK, occasionally when you have, say, a list of emotions or a list of toxins or a list of viruses or a list of bacteria or a list of family members, and you're wanting to target down to where the problem is. So when you can muscle test in a subtle way, it's less exhausting on the practitioner, it's less exhausting on the person. So having one of those up your sleeve. I also do etheric balances, and that's more in the signature system. That's more the 15-month thing that we'll get to at some stage. But that's when you can do a balance on someone who isn't there and work.
I love that
etheric body. And I do have examples of that on my YouTube channel, New Leaf Health Team. But it's hard work for me, really, really hard work for me, because of the way that I work, because I'm so skeptical. So I literally do this probably 300, 400 times during that balance, and my forearm becomes quite tender and sore because of it, because I'm so skeptical. I'm like, right, and I'm in the zone and I'm doing it and I'm just working from head to toe, working out what the next thing to do is. I'm going through the same list of hierarchy, the same I would with their real body in front of me. And I've had really good success. So I have no doubt that it works. And
There
it's
is no distance in energy.
there's no distance in energy. There's
Mhm.
no distance in energy. Absolutely. So some of the other things for the foundations, so the 14 meridian body systems, I think that's important to touch as a basis so that we've got those core muscles that connect to meridians, that connect to emotions. We don't go too much into emotions within foundations, but what we do is the chakra stuff, which can pull things back into balance. I start some of the leap things. I sort of cheekily add in some things like amygdala balancing and connections from left, right sides of the brain, and some integration with the way that the words come out of our mouth, the thoughts behind the words that come out of our mouth, our auditory integration, what we're saying to ourselves, what we're hearing from other people, how's that disintegrating our brain, our body, our mind, as well as so I sort of sneak in some little brain integration things in there as well. We talk a lot about adrenal fatigue, stress, and trauma because some of the because I do a lot of physical stuff. I'm a very physical kinesiologist. So when I'm working, I love working with the legs and the arms and working out what that body gait is doing. So that's more in foundations than in kinesi for the home. But that's it. But the kinesi for the home, once again, it will depend on who is in the class as to what we really nut out and cover throughout that 8 months. I've got a general idea, but it can be different from that if people prefer other stuff, by the way. Whereas foundations is by the time people get to the end of the foundations, they've got a really cool group of tools that can quite change people's lives, like as a major 1.5 hour balance. In that sort of time with kinesiology foundations, we can calm down a lot of the hypertonic muscles. We can calm down the adrenals. We can balance the immune system. We can rebalance the gait in the body. Oh, yeah. In kinesiology foundations, we do what I sort of joke as I'm a master stacker. So stackers like saving information. And the way I do it, no one else in the world seems to do it like that. So I challenge people's brains a lot with the way that I stack. But nonetheless, because I'm so physical in the way I do my kinesiology, the way I stack is the way I've developed it, because you can't do it without that. So some of the stuff down the track. So I think I even really work on stacking in about lesson 3. It's very early in kinesiology foundations because it's one of those things we need to be practicing. Like it's a very specific. Have you seen
I found stacking to be very tricky.
Yes, it is, and
Very tricky. Yeah.
absolutely. And the way some people stack, no, stacking is tricky. It's an art, without a doubt. But the way I use it is using a combinations of the Eponins pollicis. I use the jaw and I use the hip. So if I do this one, it means I can talk and walk around the table. If I use this one, then I can't talk, but I can use my hands and use my legs. If I've got it stacked in the hips, then I can use my hands and I can be talking. So that's why I use the combination of all 3 to do my stacking. And once you get that rhythm, because it's about getting that rhythm, and some of the people say, I was practicing this at the kitchen. I was going, open my jaw, put my feet together, pull my feet apart, So, so it's sort of it's like it's a repetitious circuit. But I also go into CRM, which is circuit retaining mode, which is another little secret spot that if you haven't learned that, it's just awesome. That's like a video recording of what we're doing. So that means, like, just say you say to someone, when did all this pain start? You sneakily put on your CRM, which of course feels like you've got your hand on their shoulder, so it's lovely and nurturing. But then you're recording before they even speak. So their brain can be going back thinking, what was it? Oh, I don't want to tell her that. Don't want to tell her that. Oh, okay, I can mention that because, there'll be so much more in there. We're getting more data. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
So yeah, so there's so Kinesiology Foundations, it's got some really cool stuff in there. Whereas in foundations for the home, let me just go find that. Oh, no, let me just go back here. Yeah, so there's a lot of immune balancing in Kinesiology Foundations as well. So I go through more points than I do in the one for the home. I keep things more simple for the Kinesiology for the home. And in my intro, I was sort of saying that I actually use this stuff all the time. So if I'm walking to school with my grandson and he complains about his tummy being upset because I eat a lot of crap, then I will say, okay, Teddy, hold your arm like this, and I'll, quickly pick up the stomach meridian or, the immune system or whatever's going on. There was some crap in the air yesterday and he was actually screaming in pain, his poor skin. And when I got home, I ran his scans and, there was smog and pollution and EMFs
Yeah.
and fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
it was pretty misty yesterday.
Oh, it
and
was
I
awful.
have a caravan and the windows have got this mist over the windows. Anyway, because I'm just down the road, really.
It was awful yesterday, just all day long. Today's beautiful. Let's see if they can fuck it up. Anyway, so so there's a lot of immune system balancing in foundations because that is crucial these days. And that's sort of why that brings me back to why I started doing Kinesiology Foundations. We need good healers on the planet now. So my Kinesiology Foundations is probably stuff from about 10 different courses I've done over 30 years. So, and it's not basic, it's foundational. Really core, cool stuff that you can integrate, once you start playing with people and, pull it back out, these are things that you can do every day. And they're things that I do every day in my clinic. In the signature system, that's like the 10 grand, 15 months. I go a lot more into everything again. That's like weekly coaching for, 56 sessions. But so Kinesi Foundations, adrenal fatigue, trauma, hypertonic. Yeah, we talk a lot about hypertonics, even within joints and stuff. I go a lot into hypertonics within joints, shoulders, hips, knees, all sorts of things so that people can be feeling better by the end of a balance. And that's one of the things that I love because a lot of training in kinesiology these days, and I have had people in the past who have worked for me, the only muscle test they use is Skippy arm, and they're more asking questions about the emotions. So they're focusing so much on the emotions. And sometimes that makes us feel like crap, doesn't actually make us feel good. So people can, walk out feeling like they've been, emotionally beat up with a big stick. Whereas I try to make sure that, people walk out feeling more switched on. Yeah, the feet stuff. Once again, the feet stuff is from about 5 different courses, but I've integrated all of that so that people's feet can feel really good. There's a foot manipulation that I do in my signature system, but that's not in this one. It's way too complicated for foundations. But they're the main things in foundations. In the Kinesi for the home, my plan is, so the basic muscle monitoring, how to, why, and when, and how we can integrate this into our daily lives. Basic immune system checks, using it to check for foods and things so that we can start integrating it into our life. How do I, and it's always one of those questions, don't ask if you don't want to know. Yeah, lots of little simple brain reboots and brain integration that we can do on ourselves and people within our home as well. Calming stress circuits. There's a lot of little calming stress stuff because let's face it, life is fun. Life is fun at the moment. It's filled with challenging. Being able to check your supplements, working out what you need, when and where. You're a bioresonance chickie, babe, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So, and sometimes, so a lot of the time, actually, I'll override that as a kinesiologist, naturopath as well, because I think, well, I know it's telling me I only need to have these homeopathics, but I know I've got X, Y, Z going on. So so sometimes I'll get my supplements out and I'll quickly muscle test which one's a priority. So I sort of go through that a little bit as well. Yeah, some simple energy checks for how to work out which organs are showing up. So I don't know whether you've done alarm points and things like that. In the signature system the other day, it was hilarious because one of the guys, Ernesto, he's in Florida and he's 37 years as a doctor of Chinese medicine or something. So, and he's been doing kinesiology a long time. And we were just doing this immune system balance because I had a doctor on the table. And he said, oh, I want to check for blah, blah, blah. So I thought, oh, okay, we'll do immune system. So we did the immune system. And by the time we got to the end, and I said, well, let's just go check. Let's go check which organs are being affected by this. So I went through and I checked over and under energies in all the major organ systems of the body. And then just for fun, I pulled out etheric muscle balancing. Maybe I'll do that in Kinesi for the home or Kinesi Foundations this time, just because it's a bit of fun. And once again, I think the stuff out there is affecting our bodies so much that having the etheric immune system stuff, because it's fun, it's easy, it's cool, it's weird. That's why I love kinesiology. You know, it's sort of like, it's just an extra layer. So I had this doctor on the table, and I literally put the points that had locked a second ago 2 inches over the spot, and they all unlocked. So that's the etheric immune system. So then it was funny because it took us down this rabbit hole where we went, okay, well, let's go and balance that and see what's going on. And then afterwards, Ernesto, he said to me, well, if we can do the immune system in the etheric, can we do alarm points in the etheric layer? And I went, well, I've never thought of that. Let's go have a play, shall we? And then he said, so we went and balanced all those, and he said, oh, and can you check the etheric alarm points for over and under energy? Then all of a sudden I'm flipping my fingers like just of the spur of the moment, and Arik saying, well, maybe that's polarity you're checking, because, you know, this would be north and this would be south. And I'm like, I don't know what we checked, but it made differences. And I'm going, okay, I don't know what that is. Let's all play with that, shall we? So I got messages from Arik, and he's been doing that all week on his clients. So I thought that's
amazing. So working in the etheric, in the aura, in iridology, because I study spiritual iridology, you can see what's changing within the eyes before it happens, you know, like the past, present, future. So it's similar to, you know, just like with reading the feet or the palms in what's happening with the body. So I find that just fascinating that that you're working on the etheric in that way, because, you know, how we can rake the aura and clear, but you're actually pressing those points. Fascinating.
Yeah, and the fact that, and I think this is probably why I love teaching, because I don't care where we go with teaching. I don't care. If people ask a question, I'm happy to test it. I've actually been with kinesiology trainers who refused to do real balances on people because they didn't know what the outcome was going to be. So they pretended to go through the motions, and, well, let's face it, that isn't that useful for people on this side who are trying to learn if they're not actually going through the process. So I've had that a couple of times, and it's very disappointing. So example, when, you know, Ernesto and Arik asked me the question, I went, let's go see what's the worst that can happen. And it did show something. And then we're all having this discussion because I didn't know what it meant. What do we think it means? And the doctor on the table, he was like, that's bizarre. And I go, that's bizarre. I've never done it before. Yeah. So all good and fun. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's fresh, it's new, and it makes the mind, we get out of your head a bit with regards to just being in the box. So
yes,
just
exactly.
the possibilities and potentials.
Yes. Yeah. So the kinesiology for the home is $600 over the 8 months. And the Kinesiology Foundations is $1,200, but you're getting both round 1 and round 2. You get all the videos instantly, so you can start working away on them in the background. And then once we start the weekly integrations, you know, they're live and recorded as well. Yeah. So, so the Kinesi Foundations is $1,200. The Kinesi for the home is $600, and I'm really proud of the way they're coming together.
Sounds fabulous. And so how do you go with people learning it without being in person, or do they need somebody on the table?
No, not during the integrations. No, not during the integration. So basically that's that's going home and practicing, you know, watching the video, going through the processes. Yes. And with the handouts that are given, you know, so that you've got them written down, and then you can just start working away, but you've got the video back up there as well. No, it's been really cool. The people, it's funny, the people in my signature system are from the UK, Florida, and Salzburg. Yeah, which is pretty amusing. And yeah, so, and the people who have done foundations so far have been, I don't think I've had anyone from Europe yet. I mean, I suppose Salzburg, but he didn't do foundations. He jumped straight into signature because he learnt from me about 5-6 years, and he was, after a top up and some, more integration on a weekly basis to, keep his skills really fresh and alive and switched on.
Yeah, I love that you have your vast knowledge that you're bringing in and sharing. It's not just strictly one system.
No, and that's sort of what, because I am a Touch for Health trainer, and I am a heart healing trainer, and I am a biokinetics trainer. And if I trained any of those, I would have to stick to the guidelines directly. If I became an NOT or a LEAP or a hypertonics trainer, I would have to stick to the script and nothing else. And my personality doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus my ethics can't allow that. And that's why I've put them together the way that I've put them together, to be quite honest, because I've gone, okay, so if I call it coaching, there's definitely the coaching component with the private groups, questions 100% of the time. And it's worked really well. So people will come in and sort of just, throw out a question, let's get it going, and everyone sort of jumps in when people are, well, yeah, it's good. And plus people will say, oh, remember in the second lesson we did this and this and this, so maybe go back there. Someone said the other day that they hadn't ever learnt something that I did in both kinesiology foundations. And I thought, interesting, she missed that. Her brain must have been somewhere else. I didn't argue, because there's no point arguing when someone hasn't heard it. But it was interesting that was something. She said, oh, I've never heard this concept before. And I thought, okay, I obviously didn't teach that well enough, or, But then again, her timeline is midnight when we're doing it. So
yeah, that's right. And you still probably if you're taking notes for things that you're learning,
exactly,
you're not really paying attention to the next stage.
Yes. Yeah,
as well.
Yeah.
Happens. It happens.
Beautiful.
It happens. Excellent. So that information's available on your page, isn't it, Madonna?
Yes. I'll be sharing the links again. And for the home starts on Tuesday. So it starts Tuesday. It's around midday, I think, that the Kinesi for the home one is, because that was literally the space that I had available. And the kinesiology foundations will be on a Thursday morning, either next Thursday or possibly the 14th of March. It's probably striking to be the 14th of March, actually.
How long do they go for?
There's sessions?
Yeah, so probably more the foundational.
Yeah, so probably 1.5 to 2 hours.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And like this, like at 8 a.m. type?
No, they will be 9:15. 9:15. Right. Yeah, beautiful. Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
No worries at all.
Okay. Have a fabulous day. Thank you, Madonna. We'll chat.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Cool. Bye.